Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to make a dish that was the very reason that I set this YouTube channel up. We are going to make the amazing pastrami on rye. I first had this in Katz Deli and it absolutely blew me away. If you don't know where that is, it's in New York. Famous from a movie, When Harry Met Sally, if you know the scene I'm talking about. Ooh. Anyway, hopefully you'll have the same reaction when you eat this version of pastrami. I'm going to show you how to make it without a smoker. We're going to do it on the gas barbecue, more on that later. And I'm going to show you the most amazing rye bread that you can make at home that doesn't take ages. That's perfect for this sandwich. So this recipe has a few little steps, but they're not too hard. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you them all throughout the video. Okay, let's get cooking. Hopefully you'll have a good reaction, just like Sally.
So a brisket has a point and a flat. This is a flat end. A full one's about this big. This is about 3.2 kilo. Get your butcher to do the work for you, and he's trimmed off all the fat for me quite nicely.
Okay, now for the brine for the pastrami. So you're going to need 4 liters of water, right? So we're just going to get all that into a big pot. Set that aside. We're going to toast off some spices, okay? That's just going to release everything. Now, let me run you through these. You need about 5 grams or a tablespoon of long pepper. If you can't find this, just use black peppercorns. And then I've got 5 grams of whole cloves, 2 cinnamon sticks. Just going to break these up a little bit. You can use a pestle and mortar as well, so don't worry. 4 bay leaves, just rip them up. 5 grams or 1 tablespoon of whole coriander seed. And you've guessed it, another 5 grams or 1 tablespoon of mustard seeds. And then we've got some salts and some other stuff. So we're going to toast these first and add that to the water. Now, while that's toasting, I've got 5 grams of ground ginger, 1 tablespoon. 1 tablespoon or 5 grams of red chili seed. You can use whatever chili you want. A whole head of garlic, so that's about 12 cloves or so. And then we're going to grate in some nutmeg. Now the nutmeg is in place of like allspice and mace and things like that. Half a nutmeg or so. Now to that we've got 135 grams of brown sugar. That's about a cup or so. A cup and a quarter or about 170 grams of kosher salt. If you want to use sea salt, you're going to have to use about a cup, so a bit less. Then you need some curing salt, which is called Prague Powder 1. Now you can get this from Amazon, a bunch of different places. Basically, this is what makes it stay pink. Don't want to use too much. We're going to use a 3.2 kilo piece of brisket. So we're going to need just under 21 grams, just under 4 teaspoons. So I've measured that out. Now our spices are toasted. Should be by now. Lovely. And I'm going to get those in. What we're going to do is bring this up to the boil, and then we're going to pour this over the same volume of ice to cool it all down, and then we're going to put our brisket into that. Plenty ice. You've got about almost the same volume of water to ice, so it's about 7-ish pounds. Okay, we'll let this cool down and then we'll get onto the brisket. Very nice. We're gonna go straight in. So now that we've got it in there, we're just gonna weigh it down with something that's food safe. So don't go using a pair of shoes or a dumbbell. So we're gonna use this, which is just a basic Tupperware container. Fill it with a bit of water, that's gonna weigh it down. You can just see that's gonna submerge it. So that's gonna weigh it all down. Now we're gonna cover this and put it in the fridge for 6 days. That's right, 6 days. So pastrami is a bit of a labor of love in the sense that it takes a bit of time, but the processes aren't that hard. So I'm gonna get this in for 6 days. Now I keep telling myself I'm gonna buy a lid for this, and I always keep forgetting. So I'm gonna wrap it up nice and tight. All nicely sealed, no holes, nothing's gonna get in. Put it at the bottom of the fridge. Hopefully this fits in the fridge. I think it does. And then we'll come back to this in 6 days. So the pastrami has been brining and it's time to cook it. So how do you do that? You smoke it. Now traditionally you want to put it in a smoker. One of those is going to run you about $500–600 minimum for a good one. So for $30 I picked up this smoke box. You put this on your gas barbecue, put some wood chips in there and then wait for it to smoke. And then you put your pastrami in and then we just cook it the same way and top this up every now and again. So I'm going to try this thing out, see how it goes. Not sponsored. And then we've got a selection of wood chips. We're going to use some maple and I've got some hickory as well. So You can kind of use whatever wood chips you want. So we're going to try this method. Hopefully it should work. So stay tuned. So we've got our brisket out the fridge. It's been 6 days. So what we've got to do, we've got to wash off that brine. Smells good. If it smells funky, it's probably gone bad. So this is great. Nothing smells bad at all. Get rid of that.
Fill up a container with some water, and all we're going to do is submerge our brisket in there for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then we're going to swap out that water, put it in some fresh water, give it a little dunk, take it back out, and then we're going to put it on a tray, and then we're going to pat it dry. All we're trying to do is wash off some of that intense brine.
So dry this out thoroughly, and then we're going to make a rub. So let's talk rub. So traditionally, you would just use black peppercorn and coriander seed, and that is pretty much your rub. With a bit of mustard or mustard seed for pastrami. But why not mix it up a bit and have a little fun? So we've got 20 grams of coriander seed and 20 grams of black peppercorn. You could do this in a pestle and mortar, but it's going to take you a while. And then I'm just going to do 6 grams each of fennel and cumin seed. I'm going to give that a little start, and I'm going to add a few other bits and bobs. Nice little texture there. Got 15 grams of brown sugar. We've got 6 grams of onion powder, 10 grams of garlic powder. Get that one in. And then we've got 6 grams of smoked paprika. Very nice. We get a bit of mustard. Use a bit of Dijon. We don't have any of that deli one. Get yourself a brush. And all this is to give you that flavour of the pastrami sandwich that you know. And also it's going to help you stick on your rub. Add a layer of this. Shake. Add down. Generously.
Make sure you're generous with the rub. Get it all over, nooks and crannies. Really work it in. Pick up your brisket. This is where the mustard really helps for it to stick everywhere.
Now that is ready for the smoker. Okay, let's get it on.
So to turn your gas barbecue into a smoker, you're going to take out one of the grill grates. Then you're going to take those wood chips that have been smoking in that firebox, put it directly over one of the flames. So actually one of the burners. You're going to take off the guard, light it, lid back down, and you're going to wait for it to start smoking. Then once you see it to start to smoke like this, you're going to put your brisket on the other side where there's no flame or heat whatsoever. So indirect heat is going to be hitting this pastrami all over from that beautiful smoke. We're going to wait for the temperature to come up to about 250 Fahrenheit-ish. You can see it right there. It's nice and smoky, and then we're just going to turn it down. I've also added a bit of foil to try and keep the smoke in as much as possible. Every hour or so, you're going to have to top up these wood chips because you're going to lose your smoke. So all you do, take off the grill grate, rough those kind of loose embers that are right there, and all I do is I just put some fresh wood chips on top of those. They've been soaking in a bowl, as you can see to the right there. Then I put the lid back on, shut the barbecue, bring it back up to temperature, and when I see it lovely and smoky, we're back in business. Keep repeating this for about 5, maybe 6 hours. So let's make some rye bread for this pastrami. You're going to get 55 grams of lukewarm water and about 2 grams of active dry yeast. Mix that and cover it, so just let it slightly bloom for about 5 to 7 minutes. And then we're just going to add in 55 grams of bread flour. Give that little mix around, and this poolish or pre-ferment is going to make the dough really nice and light. So cover that and leave that at room temperature for about 4 to 5 hours. You could do this the night before and leave it in the fridge. Okay, now we're going to warm up 175 grams each of water and milk, full fat milk. Just get it lukewarm. Basically, just bring it up to a little bit of temperature, pour it in a bowl, get it down to around 110, 115, anywhere around there is perfect. Put that into your stand mixer. Add 3 grams of active dry yeast. Just mix that up with a spoon, and then we're going to mix in all of our poolish that we had fermenting for about 4.5 hours. That's been going for me. It should be nice and bubbly, doubled up, tripled up in size. Get that all in there. Might be a bit sticky, but just do your best. Scrape it all out. Briefly mix that for about a minute with your dough hook attachment. Once that's mixed through, then we're going to add our flours in. We're going to need 140 grams of dark rye flour. You can pick that up in most supermarkets. 290 grams of bread flour and 8 grams of kosher salt. Get that in, back down with the mixer, and then give it a good mix for about 6 to 8 minutes. Keeping an eye on it, making sure it doesn't jump off the counter. You know when it's done, it should be a little bit sticky like that. Perfect. Then you're going to get a bowl, Grease it with spray just like this, and then we're going to plop out our dough onto a counter that we've added some flour on first, just like that. We're going to briefly knead it for a minute or two to just form the gluten. You know when it's done, when you can give it the old patented dough spank. Okay, once you're done spanking your dough, get it into your greased bowl. If there's any excess flour on your bench, just put it over the top and gently rub it in. And then cover it with a tea towel, keep it somewhere warm for about an hour or so until it's doubled like this. Gently degas it, and then we're going to put it back out onto our counter. And this is where we shape it. You can do whatever shape you want. We're going to put it on a tray lined with this silpat. I'm just going to roll it around like this and just shape it into a nice ball shape and just flatten the top. Lift it up, get it onto the tray, tuck it in around the edges to make sure it's all neatly shaped, cover it and let it proof for about an hour or two until it looks like this. This was about an hour and 20. Very nice indeed. Then get a lathe or a knife, very sharp one, and make some confident cuts, fairly confident cuts across like this. And we're going to put it in a 400-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 30 to 40 minutes. We're also going to add some boiling water to a container like this. Make sure you put it on a tray so you don't burn yourself in the bottom of the oven. All that steam is going to help you with a marvelous crust for this rye bread. Like I said, bake it for about 30 to 40 minutes at 400 Fahrenheit, and it should look like this when it's done. Sexy ASF. Give it a little tap on the bottom and it should sound like this. Yep, nice and hollow. Very nice indeed. That looks glorious. Now for a little sexy money shot, let's cut some of this up. Look at the crumb on this bread. It smells amazing. Highly recommend you making this bread. If you can't be bothered, sure you can buy one, but it won't be as good as this. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Have a little cheeky taste, of course. Absolutely delicious. Now to our brisket. It's been on for 5.5 hours and it's getting a bit dark out there. So temp it. I want it about 155. If it's 5 under or so, don't worry. Should look like this when it's done. Then we're going to take that inside. We've got it on that rack still in a tray, and then we're going to pour boiling water on the bottom. Not too much, don't burn yourself. Loosely cover it with foil, and we're going to put it in a 325-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 2 hours. Be careful. If you spill the liquid here, things will hurt. Trust me, I've done that before. Okay, put that in there, and when it's done, it should have an internal temperature of 190 to 210 Fahrenheit. Loosely cover it and let it rest for about half an hour or so it can relax, and get ready to cut this. Just look at how juicy this pastrami is. It is just bursting and bursting with juice. Beautiful pink color from the curing salt. Lovely bark. Don't cut it too thick. Make sure it's nice and thin, and just look at the juice of this bad boy. This is the flat side of the brisket, which isn't traditionally as fatty. You know when it's done perfectly when you can just pull it apart like this.
So there we have our brisket. I mean, look at this. Absolutely gorgeous. Just pulls apart without any effort whatsoever. That's nice. There's only one thing to do with this, and that's to make a pastrami on rye. One of my favorite sandwiches of all time. Get our bread. Normally you would use deli mustard, but I don't really have any. So this Dijon works pretty good for me. Some pickles. As little or as many as you like. Epic, epic, epic. Don't cut it too thick, because that's not how you want it. Stack it up high. Because when you're making a pastrami sandwich, you want to be generous. That's pretty generous. Like a pound of it in. Oh. Get the top on.
Gently pat it down, cut it down the middle, and prepare yourself for this experience.
So there we have it. Beautiful pastrami on rye. One of my favorite sandwiches, I've got to say it. First had it at Cat's Deli, like a full version of it, and it did not disappoint. Cheers, let's get into this. That's so good. The bread's amazing, soft, nice bit of crunch. The pastrami is so good. You get all that lovely flavors, salty, peppery, a bit spicy, got the mustard and the pickles. This has to be one of the best sandwiches in the world. Hands down. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite sandwich is, but for me, this is in my top 3. Holy, is this good. Ooh. Nice and smoky. We didn't have to buy a smoker, so we can do it on the gas barbecue, so that's a bonus. Smells good, it's nice and tender, a little bit of fat to it. You got to make it. Just once in your life, you've got to make pastrami. Just start early, so you're not out there all day. Get everything down and right, but make sure you make this bread with it because it is so good. So if you like pastrami, and if you like content like this, please consider subscribing. Ooh, it goes a long way to blow up this channel so I can make lots of delicious things like this. Okay, I'm going to catch you all on the next one. This is so good.